G'day ladies and gents, and welcome back to War Thunder. Today we're going to be having a look at some proposed battle rating changes that Gaijin have given us on the forums for us to sort of have a look over and discuss before they implement it. Now, this is really good because last time they gave us battle rating changes, they didn't give us the opportunity for feedback, and they made some pretty annoying changes that a lot of people got really pissed off about, understandably and rightfully so, such as the J32B and the G91YS going from 9.7 to 10.0. Now, here at least we get a chance to discuss. Before we do get into this video though, I'd like to apologize for not being around as much. I've been pretty swamped by uni work and IRL stuff. I'm also dying from allergies because it is spring here in the southern hemisphere. So if you do sort of hear me a bit nasally, a bit like sound like I'm dying, I basically am, because pollen sucks and asthma sucks as well. So we get the double combo. Anyway, on to the battle rating changes. I just want to cover the more pertinent changes. I don't really care for the low tier stuff. Most of the low tier stuff is fine. I do, however, want to discuss anything in sort of jet tier. So we're going to start off with the JA29B, 7.7 down from 8.0. I don't see a problem with this. I don't see any of them around. It doesn't have an afterburner to my knowledge, and it's basically got the same engine as the Vampire. So, same engine as the Vampire, same airframe as the J29A. I don't really see a problem. It's pretty crap. It could probably go down to 7.3 or 7.0 without too much of an issue, but 7.7 is good. We'll see how it goes from there. The MiG-15 non-BIS is the next change. It is going down to 8.3 from battle rating 8.7. I don't know how to feel about this. The MiG-15 is very, very powerful. I really enjoyed it, and I played it quite a lot, even when I had unlocked the MiG-15 BIS. I think I even used it to unlock the MiG-17. I just ignored the MiG-15 BIS and went straight to the MiG-17. It is still fairly capable. I didn't do particularly well because I was still learning the MiG guns. However, I pretty much stood up to everything. Whilst this was a very long time ago, this still pretty much holds. It is a MiG-15 BIS without the BIS bit, which means that it doesn't have, as I understand it, either engine power or weight or acceleration. It is just slightly lesser in its overall capabilities. Does it warrant an entire battle rating though? I don't really know. It has been a long time, but 8.3 is quite a low battle rating. It goes down to sort of 7.3, which is F-84s, and the F-84, this is the F-84B, by the way. And things like the Oregon, these are jets that barely scrape 1,000 kilometers per hour. In fact, they barely scrape 800 kilometers per hour. And you're going to put a jet that goes 1050 on the deck and climbs quite well at 8.3. I don't know if it's a good choice, but we will have to see it pan out. The Q5, I don't know any person that has anything good to say about this plane. So 9.7, we'll see how it goes. It could be one of those untouchable jets now that I think about it, although NS-23s really don't help the plane. So we'll see how it goes. Not terribly confident in it as a whole, but let's have a look at it when it comes to live. Now we come to the contentious bits. The MiG-21F is going to 9.7, down from 10.0. I don't understand why the MiG-21F, which has more thrust, has basically the same missiles, and has, I would say, in some cases, better guns than the G91YS. It is basically a G91YS, but a little bit harder to play. But you sort of get more reward for your risk. Now, it's at 9.7 because Gaijin have seen its statistics and have seen it drop down a little bit. So their logical step would be to lower the battle rating. Now, this to me is kind of like treating someone for pain with morphine and then wondering why they are constipated and then not giving them fiber but waiting it out a little bit to see where it goes, and then wondering why they have a bowel obstruction, which is a pretty serious medical emergency. Then they go to treat the bowel obstruction, but because they screw something up, which is very typical of Gaijin, maybe it's a equivalent of a buff or a nerf, then the patient now has an infection on top of that from surgery, or from the procedure. So this is the way I see Gaijin doing things. Especially considering the changes we're going to have a look at later. These particular changes here with the MiG-21F concern me not just because it's going to 9.7 and it's going to be facing 8.7s, but because of the method or the thinking that I can see from a player perspective behind Gaijin's actions. This makes me upset because Gaijin have had a history of double buffing and double nerfing things, and my god, has it still come out all through its development. I feel like War Thunder doesn't have a single person that sits down and has a look at the whole battle rating system, or at least pockets of the battle rating system, and then has a look at the statistics and goes, so that's why this plane is performing poorly. Not because it's a bad plane, not because it's at the wrong battle rating, but because it is constantly getting up-tiered and is constantly facing superior opponents and therefore is not likely to be doing as well. Having one or two people to have a look at things like that, things like map balance, things like mechanics, in general, it would be fantastic just to have that as a thing at Gaijin, because I can almost guarantee you, by the way they run their game, they do not have a balancing team. Most AAA titles and most studios with more than 100 employees, which Gaijin is well beyond at this point, has a balancing team. And I think that if Gaijin does not have one by this time, they're in serious shit. They need to get something along those lines, or at least tell us that they have one and give us a little bit of peace of mind, or at least a little bit of extra things to worry about, because if they do have a balancing team and they are doing things like this, it makes you wonder kind of where their head's at. Anyway, that's enough chewing out Gaijin. I know I chew out Gaijin a lot, but I don't really like to do it. I really enjoy the game as a whole, and I just don't like ratting on someone constantly. So, in lieu of that, we'll get to some positive news. We have battle rating decompression down up to 10.7, which, granted, isn't that much. One thing about the F-13, the MiG-21 F-13, is that now it's at the same battle rating as the English Electric Lightning. I wonder if it is going to sort of be a good complement or a good opponent to the Lightning, because they're basically the same thing, except one's heavier and has better missiles. So, I don't know. Maybe it's going to go better than I doomsay. Maybe it's not. I'm going to wait for the live build to sort of make a full decision. I just don't like the way Gaijin goes about balancing things in general. Anyway, the good news is we have a bit more separation between these battle ratings. So now the MiG-21F is at a full up tier when it is facing things that have radar guided AAMs, which is kind of where it should be. Not only that, but the 10.0s have a bit more space. I think one more battle rating gap would be kind of nice, but honestly, we'll get what we can take at this point. 10.7 is a good start. I think 11.0 would be the sweet spot now, just because we have the AAMs, or the semi-active radar homing AAMs in the game now, especially in the volumes that they are in, and with Phantoms, which are, by every mean of the word, better than everything else at its tier. So, moving on to the planes themselves. F-104S going to 10.3 makes perfect sense to me, just because it's so fast, and it also has the two AIM-7Es. It also has a very good radar, and it's got the RWR, so it is fairly competitive. It is fairly fun now. It's not great, but it is a good laugh. There's no carrying, but you will enjoy the plane. The F4C, F4E, F4EJ, FG Mark 1, and FGR2 all 10.7. Honestly, I think just because they're so much better, or so much more versatile than the SMT, MF, and the Mirage C, which are also going to 10.7, I think they should have been 11.0 just because they have doubled the missiles, plus the Vulcan cannon, plus the radar and the RWR and the flares. The flares are the important ones because the flares really give them the opportunity to just tell you to fuck off with those missiles. And nothing has made me more frustrating than those flares, to be honest, lately. Let me know in the comments section if you're feeling the same way. And naturally, if you are not, also let me know. Let's start a discussion on that. I think the flares are a little bit too strong at this point in the game. I don't know. That's just the way I feel. Anyway, these are the battle rating changes for aircraft that we are going to look at today. Let me know in the comment section if you want me to talk about the tank ones, because that's not really my forte, but I will give it a go. I have played a lot of some of these vehicles, and honestly, most of these changes are fairly positive. Kind of like the R3 T20 SPAA thing. That's going to 4.0, so War Thunder is completely fixed, guys. Haha.